Did you know that even though there are tens of thousands of words in the English language, you really only need about 3,000 of them to say anything you need to say? I'm teaching 3,000 words in 3,000 days. Stick with me and you'll get a new word every day.
Spiritual, spiritual. So the pictures that I have here are of people praying in different ways. Because one of the synonyms for spiritual would be religious. Although a person who is spiritual doesn't necessarily have to be religious. A person who is religious also might not be spiritual. So I'm going to explain the difference. I am a religious person. That means I go to church. I serve people. I do it religiously. I have a religion. I am also a spiritual person. That means that I pray. I have a personal relationship with God. I can appreciate that God speaks to me. That's a spiritual connection. Okay? And when we talk about spiritual connection, she might say divine. Divine means having to do with God. But mystic is also a spiritual sense. A mystic person might be someone who maybe doesn't believe in God, but has a real connection to the land, or and it interacts with their spirit, their who they are inside. Another meaning of spiritual comes from the word spirit, might be spectral. A specter is a ghost, so ghostly, having to do with our spirit. So a lot of traditions believe that there is life after death, and they believe that the body is just a shell. For example, I have this little purse here. Let's have this inside. Okay, so a lot of beliefs believe that this is a person. We have the spirit inside of a physical body. And when the physical body dies, the spirit stays alive. Okay? So it's an entity. So when the body dies and you become a ghost or a specter, that is the spirit. So it's a spiritual. So spiritual, I had a spiritual experience, is generally a very positive experience. I had an experience with a specter, or I had a spectral experience. That would be a negative, scary experience. So a spiritual experience would be something that brings us closer to the divine or mystical. Some other words would be ethereal or heavenly. Spiritual, again, has a very positive feeling. Let's see. She went on a spiritual retreat in the mountains to reconnect with herself and find inner peace. So we would use the word spiritual in a spiritual retreat. It refers to time away from daily life, often involving meditation, reflection, or even religious practices that are going to nurture that inner part of us, that spirit part of us. Despite not being religious, he describes himself as a deeply spiritual person who believes in the power of the universe. Here, spiritual suggests a personal sense of connection to something greater. So, like I said, you can be spiritual without being religious. You can also be religious without being spiritual. But I would say that if a person is religious without being spiritual, they are being hypocritical, meaning they say one thing but do another. The music had a spiritual quality that moved the audience to tears. A spiritual quality here refers to the emotional depth or uplifting feeling that connects listeners to something profound or transcendent. So spiritual can be a synonym might be transcendent. They offered spiritual guidance to those struggling with grief or loss. Spiritual guidance is help or support based on inner wisdom, belief systems, or religious faith, especially during difficult times. I like to read the Bible. I like to read the scriptures. That gives me my spiritual guidance. Where do you get your spiritual guidance? In many cultures, dance and song are part of important spiritual traditions passed down for generations. Spiritual traditions refers to culturally significant practices that are rooted in belief. So think about your culture and your spiritual traditions. Do they include dance and song? Mine do. More singing and playing music than dancing. But I know of many spiritual traditions where dance is center. A lot of the Native American spiritual traditions center on dance. The opposite of spiritual would be secular. If you're saying spiritual is religious, it could be earthly, bound to the earth, not to any spiritual realm. The noun here is spirit. Inspire would be the verb. Inspire means to put the spirit into something. So, inspire. Now we're getting into almost a different meaning, but the word inspire, we're going to go back to this again. We have the body and we have the spirit. We put the spirit into it, and now it's alive. It's inspired. That's where the word inspire comes from. The adjective is spiritual, and the adverb is spiritually. Notice I doubled the L. Anytime a word ends in an L and then we're going to put a ly on the end, we have to double the L.
I really hope that you enjoyed this word. Use it 5 times today, write it down, commit it to memory, and I'll see you in the next lesson.